sound you will hear when you have 1 minute left. And then, if you go over that 1 minute, you'll be like, who the hell has their phone ringing? Well, that's me, because your time is up, okay? My phone is going to continue chiming. So, some people miraculously can turn that out, but let me just tune it out. I'm like, oh, somebody's phone is like, okay, that means your time is up. And please, graciously, get off the stage. But anyway, our first person will not even take his full 5 minutes. It always takes them less longer to introduce his piece than to read it. Please welcome.
That is cool. Oh, you won't agree with it.
Life baby Jesus Christ.
Okay. Birdman 313. I have 8 poetry books published, 4 chapbooks, and over 200 videos. I'm on every major site, social media site there is. But I'm going to read from my 8th book, since you said short. And the poem I was going to read, I left it in Houston, so I had to go through my book. And this one is titled The Dark Side. Every night we dream of many things. Half of them we will never remember. Our dreams are only things our brain are trying to sort out. We only focus on what we want to remember. The rest of ours is left to visit the dark side of the moon. When love comes to us with all its pleasure and pain, then departs, it breaks our heart. As with everything in our life, we tend to want to forget. Package them together, stash them away. Then on an appropriate day, we send them to the dark side of the moon. The dark side of the moon is where dreams are discarded and where old love letters stay. I don't mind living alone on the dark side of the moon, if it will keep me from feeling the pain of another wound. The cold November skies bring all sins to light. I need a hiding place where each moment is as dark as the night. I will always love you, but my darling, please let me go. Before I kiss you one last time, I want to let you know, if you ever find the courage to finally set yourself free, look on the dark side of the moon. That's where I'll be.
Oh, yeah.
Any more? Sure. Oh, okay. I probably could read 3 more, huh? Okay, this one is called Keeping It Real. I told you no lies and trusted your words. When you said that it was okay to cry, you hid an ocean of lies from those closest to you, then decided to reveal them all. You answered questions that were never asked, and you never showed regret. And for that, I should be thankful. You tell yourself that it was all a joke, expecting everyone to laugh. Then the truth hit you, stabbed you, then killed me 1,000 times. I cried at night with a never-ending search for the truth, thinking I understood it all. Then you open your eyes and unwrap the hurtful truth, but no one will be there now to hold your hand through it all. And I can never thank you enough for opening your closet of skeletons. Thank you.
Trev.
Thank you, and thank you, Austin. Short poem. Imagine you sat there waiting for your turn, and it's going to be 3.5 hours. You have to listen to everybody else. Shit, I'm bored. Takes a while to sink in, but that's English humour. This is the actual event. I arrived early, put my name on the list, hoping not to be missed. Others did the same for their 5 minutes of fame. And so the open mic began, and after what seemed an age, 3.5 hours later, I was finally caught to the stage. But I didn't have time, after thinking, shit, I'm bored. But I didn't have time to do my full repertoire of running. So just of my accord, I thought I'd go for a record. The shortest performance there by a guy, ever by a guy called Trev. I just made that up because you won't understand a little bit. So, to make it the shortest ever, I began with, "Hi, I'm Trevor." And then it seemed just right to end with, "Thank you, good night." And they'd say, all I had time for, I couldn't do more. The audience seemed astounded as from the stage I bound, thinking, I'll have to scurry, but they'll not forget tonight in a hurry. Had I cocked up? I doubt it, because when I told a friend about it, he with laughter roared, saying, "Look on the bright side, at least the audience didn't have time to get bored." This poem does contain a slight apology. When you see me quiet by myself, things aren't what they seem. When I'm by myself, I am my team. So when the management minion asks for an opinion, I tell them, sorry, but one of my rules is I prefer to remain silent in the company of fools. There's a new buzzword or buzz phrase coming in now, particularly McDonald's touchscreens. It's called facial contamination. I invented it first. This is true, well, most of it. When I worked at home for adults with learning difficulties, somebody once said, you might as well put load of ticking sign in charge of the asylum, or Malvern or supporting who? They didn't. Part of the chat. I said I cleaned up some shit. The boss said, using that word may fill us with dread. But it's improper. Please, use feces instead. One day, boss and director were walking round and stopped to ask, what was my task? I said, I've remedied a bad situation. I've cleaned up some facial contamination. With the boss and director, I've been the interjector. I felt, of my eloquence, I felt quite proud, till the director said aloud, showing true grit, oh, you've cleaned up some shit. Right. Hang on. It's somewhere. Here we are. I have given one when others have passed me. It tells you what it is at the end. I have given one when others have passed by on the other side, or stood to deride. Given more and gone that extra mile, when others have stood by, wearing a stupid smile. Given more and not counted the cost, when others have stood by looking lost. Given one when things seem such a farce and others seem to have their heads stuck firmly up their arse. And they appear to be no better of thought, a disgrace when they're thrown back in your face. So will the people wonder why my hands are closed, fingers pointing to the sky. They see me open my hands and gently say, go on, you're free. Will they stand and stare at something invisible I release into the air? Will they ask with inquisitive driven, what was it to which freedom was given? Will they be bereft that it is the one I had left, wondering what it was, through which I said go on, when I say, it was my last fuck, and now it's gone.
A poem in two voices.
We have built a bridge, dear.
You are in my heart.
We dance in a circle.
Our secret in the middle knows.
No one sees the shared center we turn about.
We see what is not visible to others.
We saw each other across the depths of a dark night.
When the light from the vital signs monitor was the only light.
Heard the silent tread of the orderly come to read my vital signs that disturb not.
A troubled, needed sleep.
This is the bond between us.
what we saw in each other,
that no one else did,
till we danced around.
our shared center.
And this is for Thom. I was looking everywhere for Thom yesterday. I couldn't find him. I was really missing him. We are all in exile from an ordered world, seeking to make of uncertainty a livable space, the bridge, in the darkness and chaos of life. For there is darkness and chaos in life. How urgent the vessel, home. Not at all like the first home, or the second home, but at last, when from darkness and chaos we craft a poem together, the bridge, no longer a wall, becomes our home.
Those of you who have read Adrienne Rich's Diving into the Wreck may recognize this. This is somewhat an apology for looking at what she wrote, where she ended up, and the dangers of that work. I didn't feel up to it. This is gazing into the wreck. Sonar has located it precisely there. Mapped its location, orientation, depth. Here, 100-yard swim from the safety of the reef I float, gazing into a depth where only imagination sees. I search for any future visit. Preparation, equipment will be needed to go further. Does the wreck call, and to whom?
This was written 2000, and then it was rewritten a few days ago. Your bestest meal. I'm going to cook you the bestest meal you ever had. Come into my kitchen, take off your hat and coat, stay for a while. Talk to me of all your heres and theirs. It's been a long time between visits. I have missed you so. You look so good. Haven't changed a bit. Just a little gray in your hair, but on you it looks grand. Still walking so straight and tall, not bent over like me. So sure of yourself, like I always wanted to be. Your voice so low and gentle, always knew what I wanted to hear. I did try to listen, but other things kept getting in the way. So step into my kitchen and let me cook you the bestest meal you ever had. I think I will cook you some spaghetti with just a little bit of tomato sauce, a huge salad with plenty of black olives, your favorite kind. Oh, and this time I won't forget the bread. My family, you ask, how are they? They are fine. I have 2 children, both grown up now, living close by, I reply. I would have kept you posted, but I had no address. I know you meant to keep in touch, meant to send me little notes, but time has a strange way, all on its own, of slipping right by. So step into my kitchen and let me cook you the bestest meal you ever had. I know you must be off soon, always was one to be on the move. How was your traveling? Meeting strange and exotic people, on and off planet? I know you must go, can't stay for another second, so I won't take but a minute to wish you well, to say that I love you. Just remember me a little. Maybe in the future we will meet again, and it will be your turn to cook for me. This was written 2013, and then I revised it 2019. It's called Grace of Self. Come, walk in the grace of self. Let your heart lead the way. Leave your fears by the roadside, food for the vultures. Come, walk in the grace of self. Become naked. Winter, the time for contemplation, the time for old habits to take a walk, not needed here. Shed your outer skin. A new model is awaiting, one that will serve the new you. Come, walk in the grace of self. lying naked on a huge boulder, millions of years old, embedded in water being stoked by a powerful waterfall, letting the strong winter sun warm you, speaking to you of forgotten peoples, of forgotten desires. Come, walk in the grace of self. Nothing will ever seem wrong or incorrect. No mistakes here. Each day will be special. All will happen in a timely manner. Shout out your joy and know that you are loved. Your despair is no longer welcome here. Come, walk in the grace of self. Know that all is well and that for once you are safe. This is Fear. This was written yesterday. Fear is a lie, a tale told to all, knows no borders or walls, nor nor store signs that say whites only, written and disseminated by many, but can be discarded any time. It's up to you. Walk softly, tread lightly, leave no footprints, for this earth is only your home temporarily.
Davila.
Yeah.
Put this down, that'll hide my belly.
We're not apologizing, man.
Yeah. Not at this angle, okay?
Oh, man.
You know what writer's block is. Everybody's had it, you know, and then you come to poetry reading and you don't want to be looking at your phone. You know, you don't want to make a fool out of yourself, and you don't want to bring attention to yourself in many cases. Listen, in some other poetry communities, not this one, they're like, this is the easiest way to get attention. Can I have your attention, please? Can I have your attention, please? Thank you, I love attention. Just not knowing what to write, I was formulating these thoughts, thinking, oh, well, we're going to wing it.
Yeah.
I'm going to wing it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought about maybe something non-sequitur, but, you know, 3 butterflies, a chainsaw, 5 leaves gets old pretty quick. But what did we do? Why did we do this poetry? We've read Letters to a Young Poet, Raina Marie Rilke.
Yeah.
Am I a poet? He says if you're a poet, you cannot go without writing because you have to write. And then the question I asked myself was, why? Why do we write? And there's those groups that say, can I have your attention, please? Thank you. I love attention. And actually, it does begin that way. For those parents, are we here? Do we remember this? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, Q, J, X, Y, Z. I did it, Daddy! I did it, Daddy! Look at me! You did great, sweetheart. Oh, I'm so proud of you. Daddy, I wrote you a song. You are my daddy, my lovely daddy. You make me happy when I want ice cream. Oh, that's such a wonderful creation, sweetheart. I just love it. You're so creative. We're not going to be a poet like you. I said, no, sweetheart, you're going to be a poet like you.
Mm-hmm.
Not like me. Be a poet like you, like you, like you. That's how you're going to be a poet. Now, what do we generate from being a poet? Why do we do this? I was having a conversation with Deborah, my housemate. We're both music teachers. We were talking about her class Saturday morning. A cluster of 12 students, and never has she had 12 students who all are tone deaf. But the joy in their faces as they sang their song, out of tune. And I said, Deborah, it kind of reminds me of when I was on a camping trip and I was on acid and drinking beer. No, my friends constantly remind me because I stayed up all night singing a song that I wrote. And as you know, when you're in that state, time goes by. They're trying to sleep. But I'm like the kids singing out of tune. I'm so proud of my creation and my poetry. It moves me. It generates something within me that says, I have to say this. I have to say, my sex life matters. I have to say, my mom matters. I have to say, I'm a Native American, fuck you. I have to say something because it moves me. This is why I do this, because it moves me. That's the why. And when you have writer's block, I'm going to leave you with this one image that reminds you of how poetry, how you should feel moved. And I'm not telling you what to do, I'm telling you what to do. Remember this, we've all seen it before. The little girl, she's 3 years old. The butterfly lands on the puppy. She says, Daddy, the butterfly, the puppy, oh, the puppy, the butterfly. She's so inspired and moved. She says, oh, it's so pretty, Daddy, look. He says, be a sweetheart. What moves you is not necessarily the butterfly on the dog's nose, on the puppy's nose. What moves you is that your little young poet is moved. Yes. Thank you.
Brian Gross.
Your former mayor, Gus Garcia, passed away. And as soon as I saw the announcement, this is what I wrote. It's called Call Me Gus. We met at a fundraising event in early 2012. All of the previous living mayors of Austin were there, including Gus Garcia. I recognized him from newspaper photos and immediately walked over to introduce myself. Hello, Mr. Garcia. Thanks to your book recommendation of Bless Me Ultima, I now know all about curanderas. It had been one of Gus Garcia's initiatives, the mayor's book club in 2002 that launched a citywide reading campaign. He chose Rodolfo Anaya's coming-of-age story about a boy and his healer, known in Spanish as curandera. He asked if I was a writer. I hesitated before answering. Yes, I write. We talked about the then manuscript I was working on, a non-fiction career book, when I blurted out, "Someone should write a book about you, Mr. Garcia." He replied, "You're a writer. You could write it." And then, call me Gus. We agreed to meet for lunch a couple of weeks later to talk about our work idea, which for me included him, former Senator Gonzalo Barrientos, and former San Antonio Mayor and HUD Secretary Henry Cisneros. I wanted to call it The Making of Men. After lunch at a dive in the Capitol Plaza, where everyone in that Tex-Mex restaurant seemed to know his name, Gus and I visited for a couple of hours. He told me about starting out after college as an accountant, how a friend of one of his professors explained to him that he couldn't hire him because he was Mexican. After too many closed doors, Gus opened his own office in East Austin and said he'd sell his services to his own people in their Hispanic-owned businesses. Then came city council, then ACC trustee, then mayor. When I sat down in the restaurant booth, I immediately pulled out my writer's log, then hesitated as I looked at him to ask, "Is it okay if I take notes?" He flashed the palms of his hands up as he said, "That's why we're here," and we both laughed. After lunch, he sent me documents via email of news articles about him and other previously completed writings. During our visit, I let him know that I was leaving in a couple of months for Australia to do a one-year-long sabbatical with my husband. I assured him that our lunch was a great first conversation and we would resume our talks when I returned. I estimated that I would be finished with the career book by then, since I had already outlined all 10 chapters. Except, I never did go to Oz with my husband in 2012, because he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer a month before we were set to leave. And I never did finish that career book, but pushed it off to the side, along with the rest of my life. Flying to Australia alone in 2014 to spread my love's ashes. Every time I was about to forget Gus and our lunch completely, I would look in my still-to-be-read folder, the emails from him with attachments, all printed out and sitting in a hard copy folder in my home office. Always I would think, I need to get back to him. Let him know all that has happened. Let him know I didn't forget our conversations. Now he's dead. It had been an in-the-moment conversation that led to a lunch, that led to email exchanges about one man's life. Whatever it was, it meant something to me. Sitting in that tattered booth, listening to Gus share this rich history, it was hard not to hear my own father and the years he'd spent telling me his life stories, the similarities between these two men separated only by a generation. There are some paths we take and others we walk by. Not writing about Gus until today is a regret of mine, but I'm still breathing, so there is time yet. Vaya con Dios, Gus. Vaya con Dios.
Fonty Fox.
You have to just hear from him?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna say, none of us have been using that.
Oh, I didn't know. Well, I have one here on my book. It's called Vintage Versus. It goes, Maypo versus oatmeal. Lucky Charms oat rings versus Lucky Charms marshmallow hearts. Hamburgers versus hot dogs and Ovaltine versus Quick. Waffles versus pancakes. Banana seeds versus spring seeds. Sleds versus discs. Teacher's pet versus the bad kid. 8-track versus cassette. Chevy versus Ford. Patriotic versus anti-war. Dudes versus chicks. Rock versus disco. Before Trump versus now. I thought I had my pen. Okay, and this one here is called, paid advertisements. The new mob mentality. You hold the secret, I'll play the fool. Once their eyes glaze over in delight and merriment, we'll slash their throats and make their way to the Caribbean with their doubloons, their fancy cars, and their surgically enhanced daughters. The main street to hell has always been paved with doubloons, fancy rides, and the tastiest of daughters from the other side of the mortal family tree. Here at the intersection of science and morality, in their ever downward spiraling competition to conquer each other, the balance with each one of us is left ever more and more so precariously as we each absolve ourselves of this responsibility for our actions when communicating with others. Once you get them on your side, can you just assume they won't turn on you? If you've no doubloons, are you only worth the services you can render to those with the fast cars? With all of our resources at hand to solve all of our problems, will we merrily fall in line and continue to donate our sons and daughters to a contract for the death of our own making? Or will we risk standing out from the crowd when the pressure is on to fit in with the plan and rise up against the new mob mentality? I'm not really good at this. It's trying to, here we go. Here's some let's see. Okay, this one's just a short story. It's called, how do I get this to go away? Thanks. Okay, it's called 1985, the year of the cracked blocks and the good bad luck. In January of 1985, Austin got 7.5 inches of snow. It only takes 2 nights under 32 degrees if it doesn't rise above freezing for that one day in the middle to break your car's engine block. All 3 of our housemates had their car's engine blocks cracked from freezing that year. 30-something years ago, my housemates and I were all employed driving school buses for ASD with a 2-week pay period. We were all broke at that time and living off of bean and cheese tacos until payday next week. We checked each of our vehicles with a floating ball-type antifreeze tester It's not the best kind, but it was all that we had. When we checked them, all 3 of our radiator fluids still floated 3 of the 5 submerged balls, which is not perfect, but is usually good enough for a night in Texas. We figured we could make it to payday on the next 3 balls, and then we'd be able to afford to buy new antifreeze. We were wrong. On the bright side, when our block cracked in our 52 Chevy pickup, we found a 54 Chevy pickup truck for only $750 because it needed some parts to run, which we were now able to scavenge off the old 52's block. After a few junkyard visits, I was able to find another usable block and replace the scavenged parts to fit a new motor for the 52. So my wife and I now each had our own transportation for the first time since we'd been together. In 1985, old cars and trucks weren't cool yet, so there wasn't an aftermarket making new parts to keep it running yet either. When we'd drive one of our trucks across the country, we'd have to drive from one town's junkyard to the next, stocking up on our parts that we'd need to keep driving under the bench seat as we went along. Knowing how rare these old parts for old cars were in those days, people up north who hadn't seen any old 50s vehicles driving around in decades would be shocked when they saw our Texas tag so far from home. And cops who were all secretly motorheads in those days would gawk at the hippies in their old truck with all that they would think about was, damn, that truck's old. How can they even keep it alive? Driving around America from state to state, that was a very handy first response, as they, even while writing us out a ticket, never once even thought, I wonder if they've got 30 pounds of weed back there in their toolbox. Those old trucks gave us the best cases of bad luck you've ever seen.
One thing I don't like to apologize for is something that I want. I told you last night I was pissed. I told you last night I was whipped up on whipped cream. I told you last night the show we were watching was boring. I told you last night we should go out to a restaurant. But the one you chose and the one I chose were 2 different restaurants. And of course mine was a brand new somewhere we had never tried before restaurant, and yours was somewhere we had already been to a million times. And so you said, there's something to be said for going to a place where you pretty much know it's going to be good because the food and service is impeccable. And I said, yes. But I like trying new things, taking my palate for a ride, and new environments. And so you said you didn't want to take the risk with my restaurant because you could end up ordering something you didn't like, or wasn't cooked right. And I can understand that. That's a perfectly valid reason why we should not go to a new restaurant. Fear. But now I have my coat on, and I've gone to the bathroom twice, and I have my 3 different coats of lipstick color on, and I'm feeling like I need to try something new because it's not just about the food when going somewhere. But then you said, yes, it fucking is. And so now I have my keys in my hand, and you have your keys in your hand, because we both want to drive, which is silly to fight over. But I feel like I have to win something, because now we are definitely going to your pick of a restaurant. And I'm feeling a bit cheated, but I know I'm going to go anyway, and for sure I'll like what I get, even though I've tried everything on the menu. So there's nothing to be upset over. Besides, I can always go to a new restaurant with a girlfriend, and so then it comes down to this. Should I get sweet potato fries, or chili cheese fries, or Parmesan fries with aioli, or a salad instead? And this is exactly what I asked you as we waited for the light to turn green. And we watched a lady with osteoporosis, bent forward, 90 degrees, crossing the street in front of us. And when she reached the other side, you put on the gas, gripped my hand securely, and said, sweet potato. Thank you.
called the Flamingo Check. So after ending my 15-year marriage with a man who gave up on our dreams just as I finally got us to the starting line, I fell for a super cool, creative intellectual who unfortunately turned out to be emotionally unavailable. Then I fell for a wonderfully magical and gentle-spirited man who adored me and filled up my dangerously low love tank that held me so tightly I could hardly breathe. Next, I fell for a lumberjack of a man with grizzly face, towering stature, and a financially sound bank account. However, I seemed to trigger issues with his mother because I didn't need him enough. So instead, he made it clear he didn't need me by treating me like shit. After all these bumpy twists and turns down the mountain of romantic fantasies, I somehow crossed paths with the most unlikely of soulmates. He lives in Pflugerville. I own Slaughter. He loves guns. I am instinctively terrified of them. He homeschools. I'm a school teacher. He is hesitant to vaccine his children, and He is hesitant to vaccinate his children, and I was so grateful to surrender myself to American healthcare despite its many flaws, after nearly dying in the hands of practically non-existent care in Mexico. He wants to live off the grid. I'm grateful to be back on it. He is estranged from his mom and respects the father who abandoned him. I am close to my mom and feel emotionally distant from my father. He is the youngest creature ever to walk this earth, and I am as young as they come. Yet somehow we work. We both ground and inspire each other. We're in harmony and literally sync every time we touch. He feeds my fire, I soothe his. He can handle my flame, I admire his ability to tame his. We share similar core values, but express them in polar opposite ways. We've already navigated my daughter's depression of me being with a man who's not her father, my son's antisocial behavior, and his children's suspicion of a woman who might not treat their dad as well as he deserves or live up to his high standards. We're learning to ride the waves of our opposing viewpoints and untangle the tendrils of old wounds at the hands of other people. The amazing thing is, we do it by committing to be fully and completely who we already are. No exceptions, even when it's scary. We're equally dedicated to fully inhabiting our ever-evolving present, and therefore simultaneously touch and honor the story and strength of every scar left by our past, and therefore can see each other without the heavy blanket of our history or worries for our future. But it is strange rewiring my mind this way. Somewhere along the way, I picked up the idea that true love meant losing yourself to someone else, and therefore becoming some entirely new entity together. Something about love requiring sacrifice of self. But surprisingly, he just makes me more me, not less. Our encounters are like chipping a statue out of stone or smelting gold in the heat of fire. We help to reveal each other. It's never what I expect, but somehow exactly what I need. There's no endpoint, no arrival, only movement. It's unsettling. We are in constant transformation, always unfolding and changing, but somehow finding ourselves closer together, even when we're apart. I think of it as my flamingo check. We are strong together, two live wires solidly planted in the earth. But every once in a while, I still need to stand on one foot, pull myself into tree pose to the sky, and remind myself deep in my core that I am complete by myself as well. In this way, I am slowly learning to trust the process, this weird mystical alchemy I've never experienced before, which ironically involves a constant surrender of my old concept of us in order to relentlessly rededicate myself to my own journey. I must face the truth that if we are meant to be together, it will be, period. Which means I must accept that there is absolutely nothing I can do to alter that fact, without betraying both myself and the us we have committed to. Since I have no choice, I am learning to let go and ride the current. The fun thing is I get to continually relive the joy of falling in love again and again, every time I look up from my path, and see that he's still there, smiling by my side.
It's only half a story, right? It's true, it's true. So the question was, where was I? So it's National Poetry Month, and thanks to Teresa, this became incorporated within the Austin International Poetry Festival, and we're very grateful. And what happened was, on the first day, I went to McCallum High School with Kay Abby Khaled and Christina M. Jackson, and we met the advanced art students. And they were fantastically open to the possibility of expression. They had long explored in their own individual direction the idea that every person is both autonomous and connected. It was a dance that had begun long before us, and their teacher was a poet. He shared his book, I shared my book, we shared books, we shared conversation, which is a sacred form of lovemaking. The students, all purple-haired and pink-eyed, were amazing, astonishing, individual, and challenging. They did not want to believe anyone or anything, and I agree with them. It's far too late to fall on the line. Everyone's different all the time. So we offered them the books of the past and hoped that they would make and create the books of the future. I said, you respond to this because this is a biological definition of a living organism, one that responds to its environment. If you all respond, you can take these books and burn them whenever you like, because they'll keep you warm in times of cold hearts. Some listened and shared their works. Most, of course, like quiet, retiring flowers, withdrew within themselves. So the classes passed. Some books went with them, some stayed. I opened up. I found flowers inside, drawings, poems, half-finished, illuminated manuscripts. Astonishing. So I recycled those at kick butt, and then went on to other readings, of course, because the Midnight to Dawn was last night. And about 1 o'clock in the morning, who comes in but the purple-haired, pink-eyed young students from McCallum High School? They came to the Midnight to Dawn reading last night. They were actually real. You know how people think that words are simply how you fill up time before you die? No. They're an eternal life script that we share with each other so we can avoid the pits and arrows of outrageous prosaic situations. So of course one had a curfew, so the others escorted them out, but all three performed their original creations. And it was a magical thing because we often think, what's the point and purpose, as you said? Why do we do this? It's not just for us. It's for the eternal stimulus of life itself. Response is everything. Your response is everything.